What happens when a rising Gen Z star walks into a studio expecting a warm promo and ends up in a generational face-off instead? Lola Tung, breakout star of The Summer I Turned Pretty, came to The View to celebrate the third season of the hit teen drama. But instead of talking about her character's evolution or the show's massive Gen Z following, she found herself face-to-face with something completely unexpected. Joy Behar. In Joy, she wasn't there to gush over a summer romance series. She came armed with questions about cultural values, teenage messaging, and whether the show was turning kids into influencers instead of thinkers. So it's all about pretty people crying on beaches now? Is that what passes for storytelling? Joy Behar, fictional dramatization. Lola, calm but visibly stunned, didn't back down. The show is about vulnerability, growth, and family. Sorry it doesn't come with a laugh track and political rants. And just like that, the studio froze. What unfolded next wasn't just a tense exchange. It became a full-on generational culture clash between daytime's sharpest voice and streaming's brightest rising star.
The audience buzzed with anticipation as The View returned from commercial break. Soft lighting, pastel coffee mugs, and smiling co-hosts set the mood, at least for a moment. "We are so excited," Sarah Haynes announced cheerfully, "because joining us today is the star of one of the most talked about series of the summer. The Summer I Turned Pretty is back for season 3, and fans cannot get enough of her. Please welcome Lola Tung." The crowd erupted in applause as Lola walked onto the set, radiant in a sleek yellow sundress, her youthful energy lighting up the room. She waved to the audience and smiled warmly as she took her seat at the panel table. Lola looked genuinely happy to be there, the kind of enthusiasm you only see in stars still new to fame. Her eyes sparkled, her posture open, and her voice was soft but clear as she greeted each host. For a moment, everything was perfect. "Lola, this show's success has been phenomenal. Did you ever imagine that playing Belly would explode like this?" "Not at all," Lola said, laughing gently. "I thought maybe a few people would watch it, but the way it's resonated, especially with young women, has been overwhelming and so meaningful." The audience clapped in support. They connect to Belly's emotions, her indecision, her coming-of-age awkwardness. We're not trying to make her perfect, we're showing her real. It was a thoughtful answer, but the tone changed instantly when Joy Behar cleared her throat and leaned forward. "Okay, I'm gonna be the bad guy here," she raised an eyebrow. "I watched a few episodes, and I gotta say, is this show really giving kids anything other than pouty love triangles, rich beach houses, and brooding boys with abs?" The room shifted. Lola blinked, caught slightly off guard. "Well, I mean, yes," she said carefully. "There's a lot more going on beneath the surface. The story's about grief, identity, and learning how to grow up with grace. And Instagram filters," Joy cut in. The crowd gave an uneasy laugh. Whoopi side-eyed her co-host, but Joy wasn't done. "You're playing a teenager in crisis, sure, but to me it feels like another example of Gen Z being fed a steady diet of glamorized confusion. Everything's about vibes and slow-motion beach shots. Where's the substance?" Lola's smile faded slightly, her posture straightening. "I think just because something looks pretty doesn't mean it lacks depth. The audience relates to what Belly's going through because they're going through it too. Heartbreak, loss, insecurity. Or they're just watching pretty people cry and call it a plot." Whoopi finally jumped in, trying to keep it light. "Joy, let the girl breathe." But the mood had shifted. Lola looked down for a moment, then back up, and what had flickered in her eyes wasn't sadness. It was fire. And what had started as a promo had just turned into something entirely else.
Lola sat a little straighter in her chair now. The warmth in her voice was still there, but the innocence was gone. She wasn't just a rising star anymore. She was a young woman defending her work, her audience, and her generation. Joy, I understand your perspective, but The Summer I Turned Pretty is more than just a love triangle. It's about grief, emotional complexity, and learning how to navigate a world that constantly changes around you. Joy folded her arms, unimpressed. It's packaged beautifully, I'll give you that, but don't you think it's dangerous to romanticize indecision and heartbreak like it's something glamorous? Lola glanced toward the audience, then back at Joy. No one's romanticizing heartbreak. We're showing how messy it is. And for a lot of young people, especially girls, it's the first time they're seeing themselves taken seriously on screen without being turned into jokes or side characters. That earned a wave of applause. Sarah nodded in agreement. Even Whoopi muttered, "She's got a point." But Joy wasn't ready to give ground. But where's the accountability? The show is full of characters making bad choices, and no one seems to face any real consequences. You think that's something teens should be modeling themselves after? Lola tilted her head. Have you ever met a teenager who didn't make mistakes? The crowd laughed, genuinely this time. We're not here to tell them what to do. We're here to reflect what they're already feeling. Confusion, insecurity, love that doesn't make sense. It's honest, not perfect. Joy leaned in, her tone sharp but steady. And what about the message that being pretty is central to self-worth? It's in the title of the show, for crying out loud. Lola didn't flinch. The title is ironic. It's about a summer that changes everything, not just how she looks, but how she sees herself. It's about transformation, not vanity. That struck a chord. Sunny Hostin nodded slowly. That's actually a really good point. But Joy? Still locked in. Well, if the show's about growing up, then maybe the writing should grow up too. That one hit hard. You could feel the audience's mood shift, not in Joy's favor. Lola let the silence hang for a moment before responding. Just because something doesn't speak to you doesn't mean it lacks value. Millions of girls watch the show and feel seen for the first time. Maybe instead of dismissing them, we should be listening to them. Boom. Applause broke out across the studio, louder than before. Joy's lips tightened, but she said nothing. Because at that moment, it was clear this wasn't just a promo. It was a generational reckoning. And the 21-year-old on the left side of the table, she had just taken control of the room. The applause was still fading when Joy leaned forward, eyes locked on Lola, voice sharper now. No more banter, no more subtle digs. Look, Lola, I'm not here to attack you personally. I'm glad the show is successful. But when you become the face of something this big, you have to understand the influence it carries. Shows like yours don't just entertain, they shape behavior. And if what you're showing kids is that drama, indecision, and being caught between two boys is what womanhood looks like, then yeah, I have a problem. The audience gasped. Even Whoopi muttered, "Yikes." But Lola didn't flinch. She didn't shrink. She leaned in. I think the problem is that you're confusing messiness with irresponsibility. There's strength in showing vulnerability, and there's power in portraying young women who don't have everything figured out. Her voice was calm, but her words cut deep. When I was 14, I didn't need another perfect, polished character telling me how to behave. I needed someone who looked like me, who felt like me,
crying in her room because life was confusing and painful. That's what the summer I turned pretty gives them. Applause broke out again, this time unprompted, passionate. Joy tried to interject, but Lola didn't let her. And for the record, she said, voice rising just a touch, Belly isn't weak, she's real. She's layered. She's grieving her mother's illness, dealing with family collapse, and yes, figuring out her heart. If that's too complicated to fit into a soundbite, maybe the soundbite isn't the problem. Boom. Joy blinked, visibly taken aback. So now I'm the bad guy for asking questions? No, Lola replied smoothly, but maybe next time you ask a question, actually listen to the answer. Oof. The audience erupted. Applause, gasps, a few whoops. Even Whoopi cracked a half smile. Joy Behar, for once, said nothing. Not because she had nothing to say, but because at least for this moment, Lola Tung had done what few had managed on that stage. She'd stopped Joy in her tracks, and the cameras were rolling the entire time.
As soon as the segment ended, the view cut to commercial, but the tension didn't. Joy Behar stood up first, adjusting her blazer with a stiff smile. Without a word to Lola or the audience, she turned and walked off set. No joke, no exit line, just gone. Lola remained seated, composed and quiet, sipping from her mug like nothing had happened, though her knuckles were still slightly white around the handle. Sarah Haynes whispered something reassuring, and Sunny Hostin leaned over with a supportive smile, quietly saying, "You handled that like a pro." But the real storm? It was already brewing online. Minutes later, #Lola versus Joy trends everywhere. Clips of the clash flooded social media before the next segment even aired. Maybe next time you ask a question, actually listen to the answer. That moment went viral in under 15 minutes. The internet exploded. Gen Z hailed Lola as a symbol of respectful resistance. Boomers and older millennials defended Joy, accusing Lola of being too sensitive and media-trained. Media outlets scrambled to write headlines. Lola Tung schools Joy Behar in real-time culture clash. Variety. The View turns into a generational war zone over teen drama. Vulture. Joy Behar walks off after on-air challenge from streaming star. The Hollywood Reporter. YouTube and TikTok lit up with reaction videos, dramatic retellings, and commentary from influencers, climate activists, and media personalities. The studio's official statement. By the end of the day, ABC released a carefully worded statement. At The View, we welcome spirited conversation and generational perspectives. Today's exchange between Joy and Lola was a reflection of that energy. We thank Lola for her grace and professionalism. Translation: they knew it went viral and they weren't mad about it. Joy Behar speaks briefly. On her podcast the next morning, Joy addressed the incident. "I've been doing this a long time. I don't mind pushback, but I do think young stars need thicker skin. This isn't summer camp, it's live television." But the damage was done. Many saw the comment as dismissive. The replies were unforgiving. Imagine being threatened by a 21-year-old showing more composure than you. At Gen Z for real. Meanwhile, Lola, she stayed mostly silent, except for one short post that broke the internet. A black and white photo from the backstage hallway with her hands in her pockets captioned, "Some questions come with answers, some come with agendas. Know the difference." 500,000 likes in an hour. The headlines wouldn't stop. Neither would the debates. And The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3? Pre-orders and viewership spiked by 28% overnight. Because love triangle or not, Lola Tung had just won a new battle, one with real-world stakes.